evening everyone, and welcome to the Gay and Highways Committee meeting today, the 15th of June. I will read this because I don't know our new members.
Yes,
yeah.
We might as well.
Thank you all members of the public, councillors and officers who are joining us today's meeting. Please be aware that the council is video recording this meeting and this will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. I would just like to highlight some key points of the meeting format. Please can I ask everyone to have their phones turned off and set to silent. The fire exits are via the doors out of the chambers and down the external fire escape stairs or via the main entrance that you enter the building through. In the event of a fire, the lift should not be used. The assembly point is outside the Royal Mail Parcel Office on West Street. Please remain seated unless you are invited to speak or need to take a comfort break. Toilet facilities are out in the corridor. Members of the public are invited to participate in the meeting with key points as follows. Public participation is limited to a maximum of 4 minutes per person and must be relating to an item of business on the agenda. As Chair, I will interject if needed to enforce this. For those looking to speak specifically about planning or tree works application on the agenda will be invited to speak immediately before the committee considers that application. For those looking to speak on non-planning application business, you'll be invited to speak during the public participation agenda item. Please raise your hand to show you wish to speak and I will invite you to speak. If you are comfortable standing, please do so to ensure you can be heard across the room. You do not need to state your name when you start speaking if you do not wish to. But we ask that you clearly state which agenda item you are speaking about. I would ask that participants looking to leave the meeting wait until the end of an agenda item to limit distractions for other participants. Members of the public looking to leave the building will need to be escorted out by a council officer. If the meeting goes into confidential, well, we won't be tonight. To all present, please remember to show respect to others in the meeting and avoid interrupting where possible to enable others to follow the meeting. If any councillor feels concerned about any aspect of the meeting or discussion, please clearly state point of order. I will then gesture for you to elaborate. If anyone present is felt to be behaving unacceptably, they can be ejected from the meeting by resolution. Thank you for listening. On behalf of the council, I'd like to thank everyone for attending this town council meeting. Thank you. We move on to agenda item 1, apologies for absence.
There are no council apologies. Again, you're all here. Great to see you all. But we do have an apology unfortunately, from Jeff Johnson, our planning officer. He has hurt his back quite badly. Just so you know, he's being prescribed cocodamol by his GP, so it's obviously quite painful. So at the moment he's in bed, but hopefully not for too long. But so he has sent me a briefing on all things he would say during this meeting. So for the next period of time, imagine I'm Jeff, and I will do my best to be him. Okay, thank you.
And we will do our best.
We will do our best. We will do our best.
Moving on to item 2, disclosure of interest. To deal with any disclosure by members of any disclosable pecuniary interest and interests other than pecuniary interests as defined under the Seaford Town Council Code of Conduct and Localism Act 2011 in relation to matters on the agenda.
No interest. Nothing, Chair.
Sorry, can you just say, so if you are friends with someone that's put in a planning application, then that would be your interest that you would declare, just in case you don't know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item 3, public participation. To deal with any questions or brief representations from members of the public in accordance with relevant legislation and the Seaford Town Council policy. In accordance with Town Council policy, members of the public wishing to speak on individual planning applications may do so immediately before each planning application. And can we go straight through all the agenda items?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 4, planning applications. Applications received in the week commencing Monday the 22nd of May. LW/23/0214, 47 St Andrews Drive. Prior notification under the Town and Country Planning, General Permitted Development, England Order 2015 as amended. Schedule 2, Part 1, Class A, for a single-storey rear extension to measure 3.50 metres total length, 3 metres eaves height and 4 metres total height. Who would like to lead on this one?
Sorry, Chair, I might just pass on Jeff's comments before we start, if that's all right.
Sorry, yeah.
Just again, partly for the benefit of new members. So basically, certain sizes of extension are automatically permitted development in planning law. However, if they're over a certain size, then then you have this situation. In other words, this extension is big enough to qualify for the situation where the applicant has to basically let their neighbours know what they're going to do. If there's no objection from the neighbours, then it becomes permitted development. But if there is an objection, then it becomes a planning matter. And you'll have seen, if you've looked on the website, that there are some objections from neighbours to this that you might want to be mindful of in your discussion. But I just wanted to make sure everyone's clear about, what's the context for this, because it's a slightly unusual thing, but it's because it's an extension over the size limit for permitted development, and therefore becomes a prior notification, and we can comment on this evening. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Open to the committee.
We each have a go.
Go on, you first.
Well, what I'm trying to say, Chair, is basically if it's a full planning application, the documents aren't there really to be, but there's not enough information on. I wouldn't say anyway to us to make a comment on. So we're either waiting for maybe a few weeks' time for maybe comment on this a bit more, depending on now has been some objections from the residents. Is this a appropriate time to actually discuss this?
Yeah, my feeling is that because of the insufficient information on this, it goes to a full planning application, and then we get more detail of the height and everything, and hopefully how it corresponds with neighbouring properties. Councillor Borman.
Yeah, thank you. At the minute, if we say nothing, this could just go through and be allowed, but because there is insufficient information, I agree with Councillor Walraven that actually we should be asking the District Council to say this needs to go to a full planning application and say refuse the permitted development, which we have done with Bishopstone previously for lack of information that you need more information, especially as when I looked, there was 2 objections to it from neighbours.
Anybody else?
Go on, you haven't had a go. Go on.
Councillor Buchanan.
I was just going to say that this particular development, this is a bungalow, not covered in the ACON planning guidelines. That's difficult to make that kind of thought process against it. 4 metres as a ridge height, I'm not sure how that works with that bungalow, must say. Because the bungalow isn't, the eaves aren't 4 metres high, so where does the ridge come? Does it come this way? It wasn't easy. So you're right, there was insufficient information on the website to determine how this worked. One of the objections from number 49 was based on an if. So it was, I objected if the loss of outside light and privacy. So again, it's actually difficult to make those judgments without
Full
more
plans.
That's
information.
right, yeah. I mean, at the moment, I mean, the roof line of those bungalows are more or less level. And this, because this one's not on the corners, I don't know how much higher it will go. It could go like that, and then, you know, that's the, you know, against the street scene.
Mm.
Right.
Perhaps the Martin wants to speak, Jess.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to echo your other comments, really. I mean, I think I was just trying to, I'd looked at it and I was trying to work out the distance, but not just the height, which is a real issue, but also the depth or the width going off into the garden, because it could take it right up to the garden boundary, but you've also got another road of houses looking onto that building, and how much that's going to affect them as well. So I think it would be really nice to have seen a proper plan, but there was just insufficient information. So I was again just querying the fact that we just don't have enough information to see how this works, and there aren't that many changes in other bungalows along that road, so it sets a slight precedent as well.
Councillor Coleman.
So just an observation again, there is an existing extension to the back, conservatory or whatever, which is being demolished. So does this planning application just apply to the extra bits in terms of it, or is it the whole new bit?
Well, this is what we're not 100% sure on. This is why I think we need to propose that it goes to full planning, have a full planning application, so those answers can be, you know, well, those questions be answered.
I kind of agree with that.
Yeah, thank you. So, who'd like to make a proposal? Did you want to come? Sorry, Councillor. Did you want to come back?
Thank you, Chair. I think most things have been said now. I mean, it's. I mean, when you look at the plot of the site, of course, you always think, oh, they're going to go the whole way down, of course, and then it'll affect all the properties. But we know it won't go as far as that. But I think it needs more clarification. So as we say, I don't think in principle, if it's done right, it'll be all right. But we need a bit more detail, not just to get our views more substantially.
Okay. Councillor Bond.
I said I'd like to propose that we ask Lewis District to refuse permitted development and ask the householder to put in full planning permission.
Yeah.
You want to put in light of the two objections as well?
Yeah.
Councillor.
So full planning permission would actually involve
Full plans.
more details,
Yeah.
sections, elevations.
An architect.
So permitted development like this, they just have to give basic plans,
Yes.
which is what you've got is basic.
Yeah.
So sometimes you go look at it and go, yeah, that's fine.
That's easy.
And other times you look at it and go, no, we actually need a full planning permission request.
Okay. So that's that. Find a seconder.
No, go on, don't worry, I'll do it.
Thank you. And can I have a show of hands, please?
That's everyone, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. LW stroke 23 stroke 0255 pound 12 Pearl Road, installation of ground mounted solar PHV panel array in rear gardens. Respawn Energy. Who would like to lead on this one? Councillor Humner?
I mean, I prefer them to be on the roof if possible, but obviously not. But I can't see why we should object to it. They're a big enough plot. That's just my admission.
It's quite a large garden, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah. Councillor?
Yeah, so it's also in a preservation area, so
Yeah.
there may have, we'd be talking about that
Mm.
if it was on the roof. If you see what I mean. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm perfectly content with it being where it is. It's pretty good.
Councillor Bond?
Yeah, I'm quite happy with it. It's as Councillor Buchanan said, it's out of sight, so it's not disturbing the conservation area. So I'm quite happy. I propose we support this application.
Yeah, and can I find a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Clay. Any other comments? And can I have a show of hands for supporting this application?
Everyone, Chair, thank you.
LW/23/0295, The Maples, 13C St Peter's Road, erection of single-storey outbuilding at the rear to the main dwelling. Open to the committee. Thank you, Councillor.
This is a point that of me querying actually
Yeah.
planning law. It's described as a single-storey outbuilding. Does that mean it has water, electricity? Do you have to have extra planning permission if you do that? Many people are putting outbuildings and changing them into offices and then having services linked from the house. Does that make a difference or not to the planning? It's fine. I'm just asking the query really, because I'm imagining on this particular site it's possible as an outbuilding. It's not used as a shed. It could be more of a.
It's an outside office, I should imagine.
Yeah, so I was kind of thinking of
Yeah.
services and whether that makes any difference if you're actually. But if it doesn't, then it sounds all right to me.
I mean, you can have electrics in just a normal small shed, but I think it's probably the site and probably the height of this, because it's higher than the boundary fence. So I think that's probably why they've gone for application.
Yes, so I think I was just going to mention, I'm not 100% clear on the planning rules, but it would only be a problem if it was used as in a residential sense. If you had a toilet in there, and that would make it a different category of planning. I mean, if it's used as an outside office when the sun's out.
They're describing it as a garden room, aren't they?
Sure.
Yeah, which can,
I'd be happy to do my office work in the garden.
Councillor Clay?
Yeah, are there any objections to it? The neighbours? Okay.
Yeah, there's no objections from what I can see.
Councillor Bournemouth?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think it's come as a planning application because of the heights, but the garden is a reasonable size to accommodate this. It's set back, it's well designed, and I'm quite happy to support it.
So that kind of seconded. Councillor Hanlon?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I mean, we have had situations, of course, in having like small offices in the front garden, which not always looked at favourably because they're a bit exposed, aren't they, really? And we've had them now converted into like a mini flat, and sometimes we've had to pass those as well. There's various reasons why, isn't there, sometimes. But this particular one, I think it's the height of, and then the other side is a Bradley Centre, whatever that is. Is that residential? No, it's not residential on the other side, I don't think, anyway. So I think that helps anyway. So because of that, I'm happy to support. And it is sort of at the end of those new bungalows anyway. We were it's only like no more than a couple of years ago when we were talking about that. So I support it as well.
Okay, so you're happy to second Councillor Bournemouth's proposal. Any other comments? So can I have a show of hands for supporting this application?
Is everyone, Chair? Thank you.
Planning applications received week commencing Monday the 5th of June. LW/23/0301, 22 Bishopstone Road, Bishopstone. Demolition of rear conservatory, a 2-storey rear extension, first floor extension including raising the pitch height, side dormer and front gable, and extension with Juliet balcony, ground floor front balcony with glass balustrades and alterations to the fenestration. Who would like to lead on this one? Councillor Clay.
Yeah, it seems to me just by reading this it's quite an extensive proposed construction with nothing to actually, without looking at the plans, it's a job to say how it's going to work, so I think it should go forward to
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Hanneman?
Obviously it's a replacement, effectively it's a replacement of the conservatory, isn't it? And it's sitting to the hill there, the big one narrow plots. But I suppose because of where it is on the edge of the national park, it's there as well. It's always gets a bit more attention there. But because of where it is into the back, I can't see how we can object to it really. So you can, but I can see if we object. I can see Lewis passing it. So that's the reason. I can see Lewis passing it. Partly because it's the height you don't like, isn't it? If they did something with the height.
Well, they are doing something.
I mean, I will say that along Bishopstone Road, they are
all over the place. There's
different
quite big
heights,
ones.
and they've had various alterations. So yeah, Councillor Martler?
Yeah, I was concerned about the raising of the height, the pitch height. I think it seems quite dramatic. I must admit I haven't seen all the other changes that it would match particularly, and I'm not convinced by this particular description as well. So I kind of feel we need to have a little bit more information as well for that.
Thank you, Chair. So it does say respect the continuity of the roof line, and lower down in Bishopstone Road it does change, but when you get to that end they kind of are,
and then you've got
fairly level until you've got one at the end, but there is a level along those houses of a continuity of ridge line. So I would actually say we could object on that. It says in GBO 4 that no dormers are allowed on the side of the house, where these have got dormers out to the side, which means they're looking over the neighbours. Roof extensions are only to the rear. Well, they're not just planning on the rear, they're planning on coming out to the side and increasing the roof, so there's an increased massing to the property. And that we should match the existing roof heights, and because they're increasing the roof heights and it will then go above both the neighbouring properties, I think we can object on all those grounds. GBO 4 mainly, which covers all of it. GBO 4.
Councillor Cannon?
Yes, this is a separate observation which may apply to this and others, is that in theory if this development meets and or exceeds the current building regs, then it will be contributing to improving the housing stock in terms of insulation and stuff like that. Just an observation.
Okay, thank you. I will say this: the neighbour at 2021, there was great big construction of that bungalow, and I was horrified because all what was left was just the outer walls and some of the interior walls. They'd taken a roof off, everything. But looking at it now, it does. You've done a great job to it. But I must admit, I'm not keen on the side. I agree with you to the side. But and with the neighbouring bungalow, they did keep the character to the front of the bungalow, which this one doesn't, which I think is a shame. So. Yeah. So, do we have a proposal?
Do you word it slightly differently? Like you object, but you'll support the principle of it, but not the. But we do. We can see why the Conservatives probably had its life. Probably. I'm not. It probably does need improving, doesn't it?
The conservatory is only ground floor level though.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not,
yeah, aware of
and
that.
they're wanting to go
Unless you've got a
first
massive
floor
one.
and the roof, and that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the conservatory I've got no issue with.
Absolutely.
What the issue is the roof extension.
I know.
Yeah.
It's
The
the
dormers
side
to the
more than-
side.
It's the side. It's the side more
Because
than-
it's coming out, the
Yeah.
massing that's then changing the roof line, and as
And I can
Councillor Warren
understand.
said,
I
it's-
can understand. You could probably get panoramic views there if you really wanted to, but that's not. Wish what you could do with the side, especially in that position, couldn't you? Yeah.
There's been no objections from neighbours.
No, that's an interest.
But sometimes you don't,
No,
and then
no.
the objections come in after we've had our
Yeah.
meeting sometimes.
Yeah, and the notice is up, because I did check
Yeah,
this.
I checked that one as well.
So, can we have a proposal, Councillor Borman?
I would propose we object on the grounds that both you and me have said up to now.
Sorry?
Reject on all the...
Object on the grounds that both,
It's
I
the
said,
dormers, really.
so the dormers to the side,
GBO.
the massing,
Yeah. The height.
the height,
Height.
the roof line, roof extension should only be to the rear, so it's all GBO4.
Yeah,
All the points are on GBO4
Yeah.
okay,
of our neighbourhood plan.
okay. Does that find a seconder?
Oh, on a second, I just have a question.
Yeah.
Are local architects familiar with this document?
Yeah.
Most of them
Well,
are
yeah,
because they will reference them in their design guide statements sometimes.
Okay. Just-
So
Don, I mean, obviously, as you made the reference, so just help Councillor Cannon, you'll get used to certain architects in the end.
Mm.
They'll go around the town, don't you? And you'll see the one, and they do reference. Yes, so that's
yeah.
you'll get used to those.
And you'll understand there is some very good architects in the town
Yeah.
Yeah.
that really have read this really well and are very good. And there are some architects that aren't so good as well because they try and ignore some of this.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got a proposer. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Clay. And a show of hands of refusing this application.
Oppose on that basis.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's 6. Chair.
Those against? Abstaining? Thank you.
Always entitled to abstain.
Sometimes
We
you
will-
vote for and I vote against.
It's interesting to see
Yeah, we've
what does
got to
that.
judge what's there's not enough information.
Settle down. Agenda item 5 is the update report. Notify the committee of decisions taken by Lewis District Council on applications previously considered by the committee.
So as you can see from the report, there are 2 applications approved by Lewis District which we had no objection. And then also I've actually got a further update on in terms of this committee and the current appeal. So I've discussed, obviously Jeff, as you know, is doing a lot of work in terms of preparations for this public inquiry, which is almost certainly going to be held on the 18th, 21st of July. The only hesitation, it hasn't been finally confirmed yet because they haven't found a venue to do it in, but hopefully they will. And then the meeting will be confirmed for this period of time. So Jeff will bring a report about that to the next meeting of this committee, which is still before the 18th of July. So you'll have an opportunity to discuss this matter at your next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just add something to that? Obviously, we're entitled to attend part of that. We need it being a public inquiry.
It's a public inquiry.
Yeah, so yeah, just for our own interest. I mean, I don't think I'll do all 4 days, but I'd be quite keen to get something.
Any
But
other-
also, that's a good point, Catherine, and that's the other reason that
Yeah.
that Jeff and I have agreed that he will do something, because it's actually a good opportunity actually for him to talk to you about public inquiries and all the committee. If there's any questions about that, you can discuss that with him at your next meeting.
Because it's further complaint, it's likely to be like Lewis and Seaford, would you thought,
I have no idea.
No, okay.
The venue setting has nothing to do with us at all,
No.
so it's a
Be
matter
nice
for
if
them.
We've had them here before now.
So they haven't asked yet, so
Yeah.
we'll see.
Mm.
Maybe I think this might be too small
Right.
for this particular inquiry because I think there's a lot of
Yeah,
interest.
right.
So I think we'll put it in space.
Okay. Right, any questions? So I just ask members to note the report. Noted.
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 Thank you.
Thank you very much, and that concludes the meeting. Sorry, that clock, isn't it?
7:32.
7:32.
Very, very